So the NCAA tournament, it's inevitable, is going to eventually expand. Later on, I'm going to tell you why that's happening. But let's just get it all through our minds. It's going to happen. They're going to mess with it. It used to be 64 teams, then it was 68 teams, and 2 seasons from now, it could be 72 or even 76. There were multiple reports out there that said NCAA officials met on Wednesday to discuss expanding the tournament. So it's going to happen. It would essentially mean that there are more play-in games, right? Currently, there is the first 4, but that is going to expand. They said in the reports that they want to keep the bracket of 64, which makes a lot of sense. I think we all love the bracket of 64. So if you're going to expand it, you got to keep that bracket of 64. It's just so familiar with everyone. There are very few people, I would say, that don't really like it. Conference winners would still get an auto bid under the new format if it were to happen, but it's not clear if they would avoid a play-in. So if you recall, NC State last year, they stole a bid. Obviously, they then went on to go to the Final Four, but they won the ACC, and had they not won the ACC, they were not going to make the NCAA tournament. They made it as an 11 seed, and currently, if you win your conference, particularly one of the bigger conferences, right, like the ACC, the SEC, or the Big 12, you don't have to play in the first 4. So NC State got an auto bid to be an 11 seed. They avoided the first 4. I don't know if that's necessarily going to be the case if they expand to 72 or 76 teams. The last expansion that occurred was in 2011 when the first 4 was added, and there's been plenty of expansions to the NCAA tournament before. This is not unprecedented, right? The NCAA tournament used to be 32 teams, 64 teams, 68 teams now. It's always been expanding. I don't know in the history of the tournament if it's ever actually decreased. So it's not unfamiliar territory. The process could take months, but as I said, it pretty much feels inevitable. The earliest that this would happen is 2025-26, so 2 seasons from now. And I'd imagine it's going to be for both men and women. So both brackets will be impacted in all likelihood by an expansion. So for this season, 68 teams. Right now we're talking about the NCAA inevitably expanding. I'm going to get to the impact on Syracuse later. I'm sure you guys want to know why this is happening. I'm going to tell you what they're saying, and then I'm going to give you my opinion on it. So officials want to tell you, or they are telling you, that they want to get all the teams that deserve to be in. Big 12 Commissioner Brett Yormark, I think is his name, Brett Yormark said, quote, this was, I believe, back in February, "I want to see the best teams competing for a national championship. I'm not sure that is currently happening." So once again, that's the Big 12 Commissioner saying that we basically need to add more teams. And that the teams that are in, that there are teams that are left out that are deserving of being in, and we need to get them all in so they can all compete for a national championship. This is complete you know what. Complete you know what. You can fill in the blank. It's poppycock. It's just flawed logic because the more you expand, the more watered down the competition actually gets. You may think that you are getting all of the teams that deserve to be in, but you're actually not. Here's what you're doing. You are inviting more people to the party. You're inviting more people to the party. So it's becoming less exclusive of a party. The way to actually get all the teams that deserve to be in is actually not by expanding. And I'm going to suggest something that nobody wants, including myself. I don't really want this, but going by the logic of I want the best teams to compete for a championship, Really what it is you have to shrink it. You would have to shrink the tournament, I would say, to 16 teams, make every series a best of 7. That's right, I said series. And that's how you would ensure that you get the best teams competing for a national championship. You would get rid of the auto bids. You would take the 16 best teams in the country. That's how you could do it. But, of course, nobody wants that. I don't want that. That's not fun. That's not March Madness. I'm just trying to point out that when you expand the party, all you're doing is watering down the competition. Sure, if you were to have expanded it last season, teams like St. John's would have gotten into the tournament. At the same time, did the NCAA tournament really miss out on not having St. John's in? My point being is that you don't need to expand to ensure that the best teams are competing. You already have the best teams. You're already taking enough teams. So that's why I think that reasoning that the officials are giving, that they want to see the best teams competing, is just not right at all. It's flawed logic. So I'm going to actually tell you what's going on here. Why are they expanding the tournament? They are not ruining a good thing because we're still going to watch, but why they're doing this, why they're messing with it. Money. More money. Now, CBS and Turner, they both have deals to broadcast the tournament currently, and they're not required to pay more. They're under the current deal, so they don't have to pay more if the NCAA decides to expand. That contract ends in 2032. You can charge significantly more money by adding games. If you add games, you get to charge more money. This is one of the most classic ways for sports leagues to make a quick buck. If we're being 100% honest, it's so classic. It happens all the time. I have so many examples for you. MLB used to only be 4 teams in the playoff. It was the 3 division winners in each league plus 1 wild card. And then we said that's not enough. So MLB added a wild card game. So they would take 2 wild card teams. They play in 1 sudden death game to determine who would move on. Then, I want to say a couple years ago, they made it 6 teams per league. So now you have the 3 division winners and you have the 3 wild cards. And instead of wild card game, you have wild card series. You have a wild card series in each league. More games with stakes. That's how leagues make more money. They add games with stakes to it. There's more examples. The NFL used to be 16-game regular season, 6 playoff teams. And of those 6 playoff teams, 2 of them would get automatic first-round buys. Now, by the way, that's per conference. Now, there are 17 games, so you get an extra game in there. That's more money, right? 7 playoff teams, and only the 1 seed gets a first-round bye. More games with stakes. The NBA. The NBA used to be 8 teams per conference would make it, and it would just be 1 plays 8, 2 plays 7, 3 plays 6, 4 plays 5. Best of 7. And for a long time, the first round series used to be best of 5. They changed that to best of 7. Why do you think they did that? Nowadays, the NBA, there's a play-in tournament. They take seeds 7 through 10 and put them in a mini tournament to determine the last 2 spots in the playoffs. And they went 1 step further, the NBA, by adding a ridiculous regular season tournament that means absolutely nothing and is just repackaged regular season basketball. Nobody cares that the Lakers won the mid-season championship. It is the dumbest thing ever. Why did the NBA do it? They didn't have to do it. It's to make money. So with all that being said, and by the way, the NHL has not touched the playoffs. They haven't done it. They have the greatest playoffs, but I promise you they can add in a play-in. They can if they want it. The point being is that the reason that this is happening is not for the lip service of getting the best teams. They're doing it to make a quick buck, which is why it's inevitable. There's more money to be had. More games with stakes. If you really wanted the best teams to compete, you would not let every single team in every conference compete for the conference title to get an automatic bid. You would take significantly less teams into the tournament, but no. That's not what they're doing. They're going to expand it. It's inevitable. They're just trying to make a quick buck, which is why we all need to accept that this is going to occur instead of dreading that it's going to occur. It's not really going to impact us in terms of our viewing experience. I don't think people are going to say, I'm not watching college basketball because they're expanding the tournament. But it's going to happen, and we just have to get it through our brains. It won't be next season, but probably the season after. I would expect it to be 72 or 76.